Does a starter's pitch mix even matter? Well, in real life, of course. When you watch a baseball game, it's clear that the pitcher, catcher, and if you're the Marlins, even the dugout are intentionally calling specific pitches and sequences of pitches in order to get a batter out more effectively. After all, a Tyler Glasnow 12-6 curveball is more effective after you've seen a 97-mile-per-hour heater at the top of the zone, right? In fact, in real life, pitchers have been expanding their arsenals to throw more pitches in recent years, thanks to advancements in statistics, but more significantly, pitch design and biomechanics. Teams must believe that having a deeper pitch mix makes it easier to get a batter out. When it comes to your starting pitchers in MLB the Show franchise, however, I'm not so sure that this concept carries over. I recently dropped a video about training and player development, and this discussion with the commenter has led me to try and answer something that I've been wondering for a long time. Does your pitcher's mix have any impact on their results when you simulate in franchise mode? If you find this video helpful or just interesting, please consider dropping a like, comment, or sub. Also, check out my channel. I've got a bunch of franchise rebuilds you might enjoy. Thank you. It has become way too easy, repetitive, and predictable if you want to succeed in franchise to draft pitchers that look like Herb McKinley, high hits per nine, high walks per nine, and then ignoring all the other stats like Ks per nine, control, velocity, and break. And same thing when it comes to free agents. I think I'd much rather sign somebody like Tobias Myers with high hits per nine and walks per nine, as opposed to somebody like a Will Warren who has higher Ks per nine and a 5-pitch mix. But does the type and amount of pitches that my starters can throw actually have an impact on a player's success and results? I'm not so sure. Let's start by establishing a control variable here, and that is going to be Fastball Freddy, who can only throw 95-mile-an-hour four-seam fastballs. As you can see, he's got 75 stamina, control, velocity, and break, and then 65 for his hits per nine, Ks per nine, walks per nine, and home runs per nine. And that is the exact same build here I have for the other four pitchers in this Brave starting rotation. If pitch type and selection and sequencing is actually important in this game, Fastball Freddy's going to be pretty limited in what he can do. If I simulate 5 seasons with these 5 pitchers, so 25 total samples, what will their results look like on average? Here is Fastball Freddy taking the mound for his first start, and let's see what an at-bat looks like. He is going to start Jackson Merrill with a fastball inside. In a 1-0 count here, he's going to throw a fastball at the top of the zone. Here in the 1-1 count, he throws a fastball and misses again. And you would imagine that at this point, Jackson Merrill has a pretty good idea what's coming, but he still flies out into left. As you can see, it's going to be a pretty simple approach, and I'm about to simulate this thousands of times. Freddy went 6 scoreless innings, only giving up 2 hits, 1 walk, and he had 5 strikeouts. So right out of the gate, we've already got a quality start. That doesn't seem very realistic to me, but like I said, let's go ahead and simulate thousands of innings with this rotation. As you can see, the average season for Fastball Freddy was 168 innings pitched to a 4.03 ERA. Not bad. His whip is 1.35, FIP is 4.19, Ks per nine of 7.67, walks per nine of 3.27, and home runs per nine of 1.2. Now, those are some pretty interesting results, and a 4.03 ERA, I mean, imagine this in real life if there was a guy who only threw fastballs. Let's say Glasnow no longer had that curveball and only threw his fastball. Do you think he would be just as effective? But those results don't tell us a whole lot until we have something to compare it to, and let me introduce you to Full Arsenal. Now, this guy has the exact same stats, 65 for his per nines and clutch, 75 for his stamina, control, velocity, and break, but as you can see, he has a 4-pitch mix, a very standard mix with a four-seam, slider, changeup, and curveball. And so here's the question at the heart of this video. If I simulate Full Arsenal and he seems to have more tools to get a batter out, just thinking about it, he's got more options to choose from in the bag, is he going to perform better, worse, or the same as Fastball Freddy? Okay, after finishing these simulations, the results are in. Can I get a drum roll, please? The Full Arsenal pitchers with 4 pitches pitched worse than the Fastball Freddies on average. The Full Arsenal pitchers were .24 ERA points higher on average than our guy with only fastballs. The only metric that the full Arsenal pitchers were slightly better than in was Ks per nine, but at .04, it's marginal. Now, this is still a pretty limited sample size, and I don't think we can just flat out say that the pitchers with more pitches are worse. However, based on this sample, it doesn't look like they were any better. It's kind of unfortunate to say, but right now it looks like pitch mix does not matter, which anecdotally was kind of the feeling that I had going into this test. This is unfortunate because I do think that franchise mode should try to simulate reality the best that it can, and it seems like pitchers with a more complete arsenal, the ability to be more creative and effective with the way that they use their pitches and tunnel them, does not seem to really have an impact. And what I'm starting to think is that essentially each individual pitch is an isolated simulation and may not have much effect. There may not be much effect of the pitches that came before it. So that's where I'm at right now, but let me go ahead and create a different type of pitcher with some slightly different pitches in their mix. I have loaded in our next test subject here, East Westington, and as you can see, still a 4-pitch mix, but 4 different pitches. This time I'm going with more of a Michael King-like approach with sinkers and cutters and sweepers and circle changes. Still the same overall and the same stats across the board here, but let's see if a different pitch mix has any impact. Okay, once again, the results are in, and as you can see, East Westington also had a higher average ERA than Fastball Freddy by .27. That being said, if you look at the underlying metric of FIP, they were very close, just .01 difference. So once again, it's not a huge sample, but now that we've compared 2 different type of pitchers with 4 pitch mixes versus a guy that can only throw fastballs, I'm beginning to feel pretty confident in saying that my conclusion is that pitch mix does not matter in MLB the Show franchise mode. What are the implications of this, and what are my thoughts on this experiment as a whole? Well, first on the implications, it's pretty straightforward. A pitcher's repertoire does not seem to have an impact on their results in the field, and it more so seems to be their per 9 stats. This means when you're scouting and drafting, continue to focus on hits per 9 and walks per 9, and you don't need to dive much deeper into a player's profile than that. For those of you who watch my videos already, you know that a recurring pitcher on my team is Christian Scott, and he has a 4-pitch mix, but that's not why I signed him. I signed him because of his hits per 9 and walks per 9, and I don't care so much about any other stats, frankly. I know the developers would want to get both casual and more advanced players to play this game mode, but this just feels like it's lacking a little bit of depth to me. More specifically, the depth of player development and player profiles. When I go into Scout, it's very easy for me to look through and see that Chet Wayne is somebody I want to scout in about 2 seconds because he has high walks per 9. On the flip side, I know that Wallace Spillane is not somebody I want to scout or draft for the simple reason that his walks per 9 is too low for me. I'm not even paying any attention to his control velocity or break, and I rarely ever press the square button on my controller to look at what pitches he throws. I know that not everybody simulates their franchises like I do. Some people go in and play full games or enter highlight moments, and I think that's great. But if I want to act as a GM of an organization and not impact the games, I want to have more control over the outcomes of my players, and I want there to be more variability in the players and prospects that I have. And I want to go back to something that I mentioned earlier in this video. It seems like each pitch is its own isolated event. Now, I'm sure this is a lot more complicated and goes much deeper into the code and the system that this game is on. And I don't have all the details, but it would make sense that if Zach Littell on the mound here just threw a fastball on the outside corner, he might try to go for a splitter or a slider off of that as a tunnel. Sure, he might miss his location, but I think that's just generally more logical and makes it easier to follow the game and closer to the real-life baseball experience. Okay, that's it for me today. I'm off my high horse. I hope you enjoyed this video, got something out of it, or at the very least found it interesting. And if you did, once again, I'd like to ask you to drop a like or a comment if you have more to add to this discussion. I think this is a very interesting topic as a whole. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please take care, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Show Science.